Camels of a different variety now. There are about 1 million camels roaming across the desert, causing environmental havoc. The federal government has been culling the animals, a move that some argue is inhumane and wasteful. Others, though, demand a mass cull now, or the camels may never be controlled. Genevieve Hussey reports.
They are in the vicinity of 1 million and they are increasing by 10% a year. Where they are in extremely intense numbers, they're doing significant damage.
The problem at the moment is huge. The numbers are multiplying now at an exponential rate, so we just need to keep dealing with it.
1 million feral camels roam across more than 3 million square kilometres of the Australian landscape, and it's a problem that's compounding.
The camel population is doubling about every 9 or 10 years. And in some places the camels reach really alarming densities, more than 5 camels per square kilometre. And in those situations, at those densities, the impacts are severe.
At Curtin Springs Station, a 1 million-acre property in Central Australia, pastoralists have been fighting an ongoing and expensive battle against wild camels. Ashley and LYNDEE SEVERIN run about 4,000 head of cattle on their land, and they shoot about 1,000 camels a year in an attempt to keep these unwanted visitors at bay.
We don't leave the homestead without weapons in the vehicles. So when we see camels, we destroy camels, we shoot camels. And we work on the premise that we try and shoot every camel that we see, because there's an awful lot more that we don't see at that point. The camels completely destroyed the fence here at Rocky's Dam.
The camels compete with the cattle for water and vegetation. The station owners have built a strong fence to keep camels out of their dam.
This cable's just over 6 mil and has a 3-tonne breaking strain to compensate for the strength of the animal because they're just so strong.
LYNDEE SEVERIN says in 2007, camels damaged hundreds of kilometres of fences at the station. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in repairs.
It took us 3.5 years to put the fences back. So at $1,800 to $2,000 a kilometre, it takes a little while to get all of those things back.
Camels are also damaging the fragile desert environment, and scientists fear some plant and animal species may not survive.
The environmental impacts of camels are very significant on wetlands, and those wetlands out in the desert country are the jewels of the desert.
We're very concerned at the damage to the flora and fauna they do. We estimate that we will lose some species. In some areas there's a potential to lose, for example, quandongs.
Over the past few weeks, 5,000 camels in Central Australia have been killed by professional marksmen in helicopters as part of a 4-year, $19 million federal government management project. The company managing the program, Ninety One, carried out the cull. It says the shooting was done within strict guidelines and with landholder consent.
I mean, none of us like this process, but, you know, these animals played a big part in our history, but they're feral now and we need to be removing them from the landscape. So in the vicinity of 5,000 camels have been shot by highly experienced shooters, and the camels die very quickly.
When people kick up such a stink about the way animals are slaughtered up in Indonesia and so on, isn't this something similar to that?
Ian Conway runs King Creek Station, about 300 kilometres southwest of Alice Springs. He's appalled by the culling.
This cull is only a band-aid approach, and what are they going to do in 5, 10, 15 years' time? Are they just going to continue to shoot them? Why are we shooting camels, shooting them to rot, when there is a lot of people out there that could make a living off it?
Ian Conway says there's a market for camel meat overseas. He sells camels to the nearest abattoir, which is in Queensland, but transport is costly. Ian Conway believes many Aboriginal people don't favour culling, and he says more effort should go into developing a camel meat industry that could benefit Indigenous communities.
Walking right past their front door are camels. Why can't we get the government to put money back into the construction of an abattoirs, a training scheme for Aboriginals, and the infrastructure that they possibly need in their general area?
The Central Land Council didn't want to comment on the cull, But feral camels have had an impact on Indigenous communities like Docker River, near the Northern Territory border with Western Australia. 2 years ago, camels invaded the township.
On any one particular day, there could have been anywhere between 2,000 and 5,000 camels come into that community after water. We'll see that happening more and more in the future.
LYNDEE 1 says aerial culling is necessary because of the remoteness of much of the camel's range.
There's a place for selling the camels into a marketplace, but there's also, 1 million camels, and we need to be working to reduce those numbers rather rapidly.
LYNDEE SEVERIN wants to see more aerial culling. She fears it isn't keeping pace with the natural increase.
As we said in an interview sort of 3 years ago about this problem, stop talking about it, just get doing it.
LYNDEE 1 blames this year's record wet season, saying culling isn't practical when camels are widely dispersed.
If you wait until they congregate, you have a much more cost-effective way of doing it and a better return for taxpayers.
The management plan still has 2 years to run, but scientists say Australia's feral camels will be a challenge for decades to come.
Genevieve Hussey there.